Welcome to night 2 of the Heal to Love Again webinar. Super excited about everyone that is here for our second night, where we are going to be diving into the 7 reasons why he won't commit and the 3 things that you can do to position yourself to live the life that you pray about and that you dream about. Last night, we went in heavy talking about the power of forgiveness, as well as talking about the boundaries, how we really need to set boundaries. And most importantly, set those boundaries with ourselves. Stop abandoning ourselves in order for us to live the life that we truly dream about. If you know me, and most of you guys know me, or you're getting to know me, you know that I love to provoke thought. So I am one that, hey, Shakara, welcome. I am one that believes, this is a writer downer, for those of you that may have never heard this, our mind is the soil by which everything grows. And if we are not properly minding Excel, that's one of Excel's favorite quotes. If we are not gardening our mind, meaning plucking out, weeding out, uprooting, watering, making sure that our mind is getting its proper nutrition. And if we are letting the weeds of life grow in our mind, these are all of the negative thoughts. These are all of those things. We cannot grow and be the women that I believe we were created to be. So since our mind is the soil by which everything grows, I want to start tonight off with a thought. And this comes from the book Atomic Habits. And this thought says, and I want you just to ponder on it, and I want you to think of it in the context that we are teaching tonight. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fail to the level of your systems. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fail to the levels of your system. That's Atomic Habits, an amazing book. One of my systems is prayer. And so before we go any further, I want us to open up in prayer. And I want you to think about, what are your systems? So when we hear that quote, we may automatically think of like work systems, for my entrepreneurs on entrepreneurial systems, but I really want you to think about the systems that you have in your life. We have everyday systems. You wake up, you drink coffee, there's a system in how you do things. Are those systems allowing you to rise to your goals, or are you failing because you don't have proper systems in your life? Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you. I thank you for allowing me to be your vessel teaching tonight. I ask and pray that you use me. I pray, Father, that you give everyone on this Zoom call, on this webinar, on this masterclass, eyes to hear, eyes to see, ears to hear. Open up our mind. Help us to weed out anything that causes us to not be able to hear you clearly. I thank you for it. You get all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so let's jump in. I am super excited about this. As I mentioned last night, I did an extensive, which back in the day will be called a focus group. So I asked over 100 men, why y'all out here tripping? Why y'all not, wifing up these women when there's so many women that are amazing and that are ready for marriage and they're ready for committed relationships. And even those that are in marriages that come to me, and I have the honor, truly is an honor to work with women. And they tell me like, my husband ain't acting right. This, all these different things. So collectively, I talked to over 100 men that some were married, some were single, young, all different age range. Most were 25 and older. And I asked them, what is it? Like, what are women doing that causes you to not want to marry you, not want to commit, not want to be the man that we know that you are. Now, I want you to be mindful. A lot of times when we hear things that may cause us to grow, not all growth feels good. So there may be some things that I say that sting a little, that hurt a little. One of my mentors says that some gifts, this is another writer downer, some gifts are wrapped in sandpaper. Sandpaper's rough. Sandpaper hurts a little bit, but that sandpaper comes to polish us. It comes to smooth us out. It really comes to help us be the best version of ourselves. So as we are diving in, and for those of you that may get the replay, I want you to be intentional about these 7 things. And I want you to make the connection when we go into the things that you are going to do to position yourself for the life that you want to live. So I'm going to share my screen. And here's another thought-provoking thought. 1 year from now, you will either be saying, I wish I started, or I wish I started, or I'm so glad I started. The choice is really yours. So last night, I didn't go too deep into choice and decision, but I touched on it. This is a choice. Starting your healing journey, being the woman that you dream about, that you pray about, having the life that you dream about, that you pray about, is a choice. And it really matters on you taking the first step. This is a picture of me and my husband in Sedona, Arizona. We were celebrating, I think, our 2nd year, 3rd year anniversary. I'm not sure. And I just remembered me and him looking. And I said last night that together we multiply. When you're in a healthy, fruitful marriage, you multiply. And so us looking over this vast valley, this vast just out forest, and I remember thinking I prayed about this. I prayed to have a husband that was adventurous, that would go on hikes with me, that would do these types of things. He prayed for me before we even connected. So we have multiplied because together, I'm not sure if I shared this last night, but together we have 8 children. And together we continue to touch lives, way more lives than I'm able to touch by myself. But imagine if I was still sitting in the space, I'm going to start one day. Write this down. Here's another writer downer. One day is nowhere on the calendar. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but you cannot find one day anywhere. After tonight, I want you to remove that's limiting language. Remove that limiting language out of your vocabulary. When you say one day, that gives you room to not make a decision, to not make a choice. My clients know when they say that they're going to do something, I say, well, when? And put a date by it. I need time frames. I need dates. And I am one that eats my own cooking. Last night when we got off, I made a list of 7 things that I will complete by the end of this year. And I put dates by those things because I don't give myself room to be like, oh, well, I'm so busy. No, I hold myself accountable. Accountability is like a bad word to a lot of people these days. So I want you to know, as we're thinking and we're exploring these 7 things that the brother said is the reasons why they don't commit, I want you to really be mindful. And if it hurts, if I'm stepping on your toes, like the old folks used to say, just say ouch and just make a choice that the tongue in your shoes and the tongue in your mouth will start walking in the same direction, and you will start making change towards your healing and your growth. This scripture is amazing. Before we get into any of the 7 things that they're saying, I want us to remember that a man that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor. Literally, ladies, you are favored. When we think about favor, we think of, for me, I think about, when you find a parking spot, right? And you like, ain't no parking spaces in the shopping center. But as soon as you pull up, there's one right there. That's favor, right? I think about going into interviews and already being chosen, no matter how many applicants they have. You are chosen. You are favored. And when your husband, or those of you that are already wives, I need you to write down, I am favor. I am favor. Put it in the chat. Those of you that are positioning yourself, and those of you that are already wives, you favor. You are favor. You are literally like what people dream about. So don't allow these 7 things to get you stuck and think like, well, man, I do that. No, you're favor. And tonight we are changing some narratives that we may have lived our life by. So the first reason why men won't commit is he doesn't trust you. The first reason why husbands may not be husbanding like they're supposed to is because they don't trust you. My husband and many other men that I sat with, they said women run their mouths too much. They said that I have all this seed inside of me and I'm looking for a safe place to grow, to multiply, but I have no place to deposit it, because the moment I tell her something, the moment we get into this space of me feeling vulnerable and me wanting to let my guard down, she goes and she runs her mouth. Or she makes me feel less than a man, and so I don't trust her. So how can I commit to somebody I don't trust? How? And I said, well, what do you mean? They're always posting on social media. They're always running to their friends. They're always have this attitude. The moment they say, well, just tell me, open up and tell me. And then when I'm open and I tell them, they got an attitude. Or they throw it back in my face 2 years ago. I'll be the first to raise my hand. I used to be one of those ones. Because you said, right, on January 1985, I was only 5 then, but 1998, you was wearing a yellow shirt and jean shorts. I can't trust you. I can't trust you to give you the seed to hold the multiplication that I want to put into this world. So I want you to ask yourself, do I trust me? Some of us don't trust ourselves, but we expect other people to trust us. This goes back to what we talked about last night. We don't trust ourselves because we're not keeping our boundaries and we're not keeping our agreements with ourselves. So the first step to attraction is trust. We got to trust ourselves and we have to trust others and we have to be trustworthy. The second reason, and this is like, when I heard this over and over and this reoccurring, I thought, wow, how vulnerable and how I was just really grateful that they were honest about this. So the second reason is he does not have time for a relationship. A lot of times, so a man has to have all their ducks in a row, right? They want to have, things in place in order to commit. We just because we go off of, men are logical, women are emotional. We know this. So we go off of our feelings. Well, it feels right. But if they're not ready, I remember before I met Paul, he was in some situationships, and a couple of those women slid into my DMs, and they were like, good luck. He ain't never got time for nothing. He ain't, we'll see. We'll see. I dated him for 3 months and he never wanted to commit. And I said, sis, but you're not me. Okay. Because they will make time for, and they will be ready for people that they see that have value. Now, that's what we're going to talk about, how to raise your value statement. We're going to talk about that in the 3 things that you could do. But a lot of times they just don't have time. And we have to respect that. We have to respect that they don't have time. This is coming to me, so I'm going to say it. Ignore that imaginary clock that we've been told is ticking. So many of us want to rush people into relationships because of my clock is ticking. I only got this much time. Now, I know that there's some medical truth to some things, but I also know that the rules don't apply to us. Because if we're favored, the rules don't apply to us. And so we don't have to rush through anything. In fact, we are allowed to live in flow. So the third one is, he feels that you are selfish. I was like, dang, you coming for my sisters when I heard this one. And they said everything's about them. I date women and I don't ever get a, hey, how was your day? Hey, how were you? It's always about them and what they're going through. There's always a women empowerment movement, but as soon as the brothers have one, everything's always wrapped around women. When me and Paul started dating, and this is just like a little nugget, and this is definitely for the sisters that are married or in a relationship, a committed relationship, I did 2 things while we were just dating. One of the things I did is I wrote a letter to him apologizing for all the other women before me that hurt him. Many women are not considerate of men's feelings. Do you know? So statistics say 1 out of 4 women have suffered some type of abuse. Statistics show that 1 out of 4 men have also suffered sexual abuse. So these are grown men that their inner, we talk about my inner child and we leave that information just for women. They're walking around with wounded little boys. And then we assault them and insult them and we say things like, grow up, man up. And they feel like you're selfish. So we have to be aware. The second thing that I did is I put sticky notes. We had so we did like a lot of not stay at home like he was in my house, because listen, that wasn't happening, but like home dates, right, with our kids, because we were blending. So it wasn't just us, me and him, it was our family. And so I put sticky notes, like a scavenger hunt all around my house. And he had to, they were like words of affirmation. They were, different things to really empower him and really encourage him. He was like, no one has ever done this. We want the words of affirmation, right? So we say things like, you haven't noticed my hair. Did you notice that bro had a clean haircut? Did you notice he got a new pair of J's? When's the last time you told him his shoes was fresh? When's the last, you know what I mean? So not being so concerned about our own needs, but literally asking him and being concerned about his needs. This is a big one, number 4. He noticed you have residue from your past relationship. So I wanted to do this demonstration, but I'm in a hotel room, so it doesn't allow me to do what I wanted to do. But imagine I had a cup of soda and I was drinking with some dark soda, some Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb, right? And I drink just about all of it except for a little bitty drop. And then I pour some water in there. Is it clear water? It's just a drop. You know, I drank most of it. There was just a little drop. Pour some water in there. The residue, they see the residue because you say things, we're always talking about the past and not living in the present. There's a scripture in the Bible that says you cannot put new wine in old wineskins. And the reason why that is because the wineskins would expand and then they would burst. When he notices that you have the residue from your past relationships, he feels like you don't have the capacity for him. They don't want to hear. This is why we go to therapy. This is why we book life coaches. This is why we have these types of things, right? I do believe that a really healthy relationship helps you heal, but this is not right off the bat. We're not giving him all the residue. So in fact, the antidote is that we heal from our past before we enter into anything else. We empty out all that Dr. Pepper before we add any Sprite or any water. We don't show the residue of our past. The last thing is he feels like you have no compassion. Now, this is what men are saying. And I was like, wait a minute, the world says you guys don't care about these things. No, she has no compassion. So when I'm hurt, when I'm tired, it doesn't matter. When I'm irritated, when I'm sad, she has no compassion. And not only it's not that they don't only pay attention to the compassion you have for them, but the compassion you have for other people. They want to know that you're somebody. Remember, a garden, they have the seed. We are the garden. They want to deposit their seed into you. But guess what? If your ground is not ripe to grow anything, they feel like I can't deposit anything. Compassion is fruit. So they want to know, does she already have some seed? Is there already some work that she's been doing? Does she have compassion for other people? Does she have empathy? Or is it all about her? Number 6 is he doesn't see or honor your relationship with God. So he doesn't see that you have a relationship with God, or he doesn't honor it. I know that we all adults here. And I know that many people enter into relationships and enter into sexual contracts and agreements and covenants without marriage. But when he cares about you, when he honors you, and he sees that you're a woman of God, and he sees that you're trying to live a pure life, he will honor that. I don't care what society tells you. Your husband will wait if that is a desire that you have. Now, I am a believer that sex muddies the water. You know, I know that we've been taught, girl, you better use them tires before you drive the car. You got to buy the cow with the milk or whatever all that stuff says, right? All them sayings. I don't know all them old wise tales. But I believe that when he honors you and he honors your relationship with God, he won't do anything to compromise. Me and my husband knew right off the bat that one of our biggest issues was going to be trying to outlove one another, because we had so much respect for one another. Like, outside of, funny story. So when he first started inboxing me, because he slid through my DMs, I would say, hey, brother, like, I kept him real in the brother box, real in the friend box. I was not with it. He said that was one of the things that attracted him to me most, because he watched me, he paid attention to me, and he realized, oh, this girl got a real relationship, and I'm not willing to do anything to compromise her relationship with God. And he realized I wasn't going to either. So that leads us to our last My screen. Ooh. Give me 1 second. This thing playing games. This leads us to our last reason why he won't commit. And this is going back to our original quote. He feels like you have a broken mindset. Whether this is poverty mindset. So this is when you're going out to dinner and you looking just for appetizers. You like, oh no, that's okay. You don't have to open up my door. You don't have to. And, you know, to each its own, right? Everybody has the things that they're comfortable with. But if when he values you, when he cherishes you, when he's ready to commit to you, he's not only going to call you queen, he's going to treat you like one. But if you don't have the capacity to accept being treated like a queen, he gonna move on to somebody that has that capacity. There was no arrogance in my relationship with Paul, but when he would when we first started dating and he would say like, oh, you're pretty, I would say, I know. Like, what else, sir? Like, and he was just like, wow, like, I'm not easily impressed by that. Okay. You know, if you're going to call me a queen, treat me that way. Because here's the thing, men want to grow. If your mindset can cultivate growth, he will commit to you. They understand God created them to be givers. We are created to be receivers. When here's a bonus. I sent out an email and I'll probably resend it about the 5 reasons or the 5 ways that you know that you're healed. And one of those reasons is that you're open to receive. Having a growth mindset, you're open to receive. So you don't feel like when he buys you something or when he cherishes you or when he does these things, you don't say things like, oh, you don't have to. No, you understand that you deserve that and you sit in that. So I know for me, when I heard these 7 things, and there were other ones, but these were these were repeated the most amongst the over 100 men that I kind of surveyed. I thought like, wow. So you mean to tell me if she's trustworthy, you'll commit. You mean to tell me if you had time, you would commit. If you felt like she wasn't selfish, if you felt like there was no residue from her past, because they don't want to commit. The world teaches men that they have to compete. Here's a writer down. Here's a writer downer. A healed man won't complain. They won't compete, and they won't compare you. They don't want to compete. So when they feel like you have residue, they feel like that now they got to compete. Now they're paying for the brokenness that past relationship caused, or that your parents caused, or that the job that hurt you caused, right? So these are not isolated to relationships. They don't want to compete with the residue of your life. They'll have the capacity to help you heal. I am a firm believer that when somebody is truly your partner, they will aid in your healing, but they don't want to feel like they have to rescue you. These Disney movies and all that stuff, it really messed up our mindset, making us believe that we got to wait for our Prince Charming. Sis, if you walking around talking about you a queen, why are you waiting for somebody to rescue you? The queen has the most power. Write this down. I am my own rescue. I am my own rescue. Paul understands that I need him and I want him and he adds value, but I'm not waiting for him. And I asked the brothers, I said, so you mean to tell me if they have more compassion, If you see that they honor God, if their mindset was different, you would commit. Bet. Over and over, I kept hearing yes. Yes. I'm most of them have already positioned themselves and they're waiting for us to get into position. So I want to take a moment before we go into that. And I want to pause. And Tasha, I need you to watch the chat, or if you guys want to unmute. And this is a safe place. I want us to be completely open, vulnerable. What y'all think about this? Y'all think they lying? There's Ruth.
I'm sorry, I know I'm first again to unmute, but I'm really trying not to get triggered by number 5, and I'll share why. So my now ex-husband, we got divorced in April, would say that to me, that I had no compassion. But the problem is, what do they want us to have compassion for? I mean, broadly, as far as your survey, because he refused to get therapy for his abusive behavior and alcohol dependency. So there's compassion, but how long do you expect someone to continue to sit in your brokenness and not get help?
Okay, so now that's a whole nother story, right?
Right, okay.
It sounds like you were dealing with a narcissist, right? And a lot of times narcissists, they will try to put the blame on you without taking account. One of the first things that I said is accountability is like a bad word to a lot of people. So he was gaslighting you in order to not have to take accountability. So I want to start by Ruth saying, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for even sharing how it triggered you. And I can tell you, the healthy men that I surveyed, these are healthy, healed men. They're saying that compassion for society, compassion for the world, compassion for other people. So like you have something outside of yourself that you are working towards, right? So maybe you volunteer, maybe you work in the church, maybe you garden. Gardening shows compassion. Maybe you, I don't know, you go to bike races and you give water to the bike riders. Like there's something that shows that the world, because this is related to the selfishness, right? So you are showing other people that you're not expecting the world to be revolved around you. So compassion for humanity, right? They don't sit, a healed, healthy man isn't going to sit in his own brokenness at all. Because Paul trusted me, and I ain't going to tell all his business because he trusts me. He shared things with me that he's never shared with anybody because I provided a safe place. That's what he would always tell me, like, Tamika, you're my safe place. I want us to stop using language like we're their container, or like, I'm a container for the truth. No, we have to be conduits. So Paul knew that he could cycle things to me and then I would cycle it back to God. I wouldn't give it to anybody else. He felt extremely safe with me. My husband was married for, I think, 14 years before me. And he was like, I never have told, she never knew this. He didn't trust her. Here's the thing for my ladies that are married, they will stay. They will stay in the relationship and be extremely unhappy. And so, action step for those of you that are married, to simply ask, do you trust me? And if the answer is no, what can I do to provide you that safety that you feel like you can trust me? That was a really hard pill to swallow because I can say I was not trustworthy. My first husband, he did something and I was on the phone with one of my sisters telling them everything. I could tell you that people that I dated in the past that didn't have time, I would give them ultimatums and pressure them into dating me. And then here's the kicker. I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced this. We dating for 2 years and he's not ready and I'm trying to pressure him. We break up 2 months later, he engaged to somebody. He just didn't have time for me. And that's a hard truth that sometimes we have to swallow. So these are all hard truths. But let's talk about, because we can't control anybody, right? We can only control ourselves. So let's talk about what are the things that we can do to position ourselves. I love your name, Ruth, and I love the story of Ruth in the Bible. And I believe that she perfectly positioned herself. And there were some key things that she did and some key things that I did when I was in my dating process. Thank you for all of you that are joining in, that are hopping in. You guys are right on time. And everyone that registered will get the replay. So don't worry about that for some of you that missed some parts of it. So when I was in my dating process, I positioned myself. I positioned myself to be found. The first scripture that I shared, or the first thought that I shared, is a man that findeth a wife finds a good thing. Oh, this is so good. This just like dropped down in my spirit. So anytime there's EHT after a word, that means continual. So for those of us that are in relationships, he will continuously find you. So the woman that you were, Tosh, when you guys got married at 19 and you guys just celebrated 23 years, he's finding the new healed version of you. The woman that you are at Cell, when you guys got married when you were young, he's finding the new, but you have to give him something to find. You have to give them something to bless. Do not stay stagnant. Stagnation creates disease. Stagnation creates infection. Some of our relationships with ourselves are infected with pain and grief and sorrow and disappointment and abandonment and a rejection. And we don't want people to find us in those states. We want them to find us continuously growing, continually giving them space and ground that's been cultivated and ready to be planted in. All right, so let's jump into these. Okay. That's me and my honey on our honeymoon. Okay. That was a good old kiss too. So here are the 3 things that you could do to position yourself to be found. First thing is expect to be found. A couple of months ago, I was coaching someone and this thought came into my mind about going trick-or-treating. Now, I don't know if you guys went trick-or-treating when you were a kid. I honestly wasn't allowed. I grew up in a very religious household. So we went to Hallelujah night, okay? We didn't go to trick-or-treating. But I've taken my kids. I know what trick-or-treating is like. I know the idea of trick-or-treating, right? And so what I do know is you don't go to the house that the lights are not on. You skip over that house and you go to the next house that the lights are on. Many of us are not positioned because our lights are not on. We are not open to receive. We're walking around and it looks like the world is on our shoulders. We're walking around and it looks like no one's home. When someone's porch lights are on, it's an invitation for you to ring that doorbell. It's an invitation for you to knock on that door. Many of us do not leave our lights of our light on, the light of our life on, so no one knows if there's an invitation. Y'all ain't got to tell me this, but I want you to write it down if it's you. How many of us have ever been said something like, I was afraid to approach you. I didn't know if you was angry or if you was mad. I didn't know if I could come and talk to you because our light is not on. Now, I know that life be lifing, and I know that we're not always walking around with a big cheese on our face and we're not like all happy-go-lucky. But what I also know is that, what did I say? Men don't want to compete, they don't want to compare, and they don't want to complain, and they don't want you to do those things. So if your light is not open, they feel like they're competing. So we have to make sure that our light is on. Married ladies, he that findeth, ETH, keep your light on. Keep your light on. Don't get complacent with, well, we're married now. Allow him to continue to find you. But you have to have that light on as an open invitation that it's safe to be found. Number 2 is being intentional. So your faith activation tonight, I did this. Some of you guys have already heard this. When I was in the process of being ready and being prepared to, I knew I was ready to marry. There are a couple of things that I did. And one of the things that I did for, I want to say, it was six to 12 weeks. I can't remember exactly. I still have the journal to this day, but I started a Dear Future Husband journal. And every single day I would journal, and I would write like, oh, about my day, everything that I wanted to tell my future husband whenever he walked into my life. I would also tell him when I was frustrated. I would tell him like the things that I wanted to do. Like, I want to go on this hike. I want to travel here. You know, I would even talk to him about our kids and like all this stuff, right? I would just really journal. Journaling is super, super powerful. It's cathartic. It really helps you to release. And so I was doing this. Literally, Paul showed up and he was the man in that journal. He was literally the exact man that I was journaling to. And so I want you to start this faith activation if you're ready, because that was my intentionality, was journaling to him. My women that are the ladies on here that are married, you could still journal to your husband. This is unrelated, but me and one of my sons, he had a very hard time communicating. A lot of men do, because why? They don't feel safe. They don't feel like it's okay. The world has not given them permission to share their feelings, to share what happens when a little boy falls down and skins their knee. Boy, shut up before I give you something to cry for. Boys don't cry. Stop being a sissy lala, right? We tell them these things. But then when they get in relationships with us, this is good nuggets for the moms on the line that have sons. And then when they get in relationships with us, we want them to open up, to share, no one has ever given them that ability. So one of my sons, I used to have to journal with him, and we would write journals back and forth, like journal entries. It was a safe place for him. But I was extremely intentional about my dating. I did something that y'all probably not gonna like. Anybody that didn't add value to me, anybody that took up space, do you guys realize that we live in an energetic world? This is a very energetic world. So these are energy. Everything that we do is energy. This computer that I'm talking to you on all of this stuff is an energetic exchange. So I realized I had too many people taking up energy and space in my heart space. So I had to go through, delete, block, remove. Delete, block, remove. Anybody, and this is not just men, this was anybody that was taking up heart space. Me and my first husband, my children's father, I had an extremely close relationship with his family. I realized, how is God going to, this is a whole nother training that I don't have time to get into, but we only have the capacity for 5 intimate relationships. That's why there's so many things about our fat 5 and our like intimate. I'm talking close, intimate. I had heart space with my ex-husband's family. The moment I was intentional and I released them, I want you to make a list of who do you need to release. Sometimes we need to release people in order to attract, so that energy can flow, so there can be an exchange of energy. And the last thing is I became open to receive, which is very similar to expecting it. So going into Ruth, one of the things that Ruth did is she didn't do a lot of work. She really didn't. She stayed on the outskirts and she gleaned from the people that did all the work. So she received like the really, and it was the best of what other people had because she was in the right position. So she kind of kicked it around and, you know, she was there early and she was able to glean all the spoils. I want to say to those of you that were on here first, ready to glean, you're positioning yourself. Make a commitment to yourself, because write this down. This is something that I tell my kids all the time. How you do one thing is how you do all things. So if you're open to receive, this is open to receive the promotion, open to receive the friendship, open to receive the compliment, open to receive help, open to seek wisdom. Open. We have to be open, because what happens is the law of like, it just happens. It's when we position ourselves and we do these things, it's like a boomerang effect. It opens our life up to other things. So I want you guys to practice being open. The next time you go to the grocery store, when someone says, "Oh, miss, can I take those groceries out?" Stop being superwoman. Yeah. Come on. I'm open to this. I'm preparing. I'm being intentional for my husband. I'm being intentional for who's to come. Absolutely, you can help me with my groceries. Absolutely, you can help me put these bags in. When someone looks at you and say, "Wow, you have a beautiful smile," thank you. I'm being open to the compliments that are getting ready to come my way. This is turning on our light. This is how we turn on our light. Everything that I'm teaching you guys, I have used these steps to literally turn my life upside down. I don't have one successfully completed relationship. I have two. Many people would say that I'm a failure because I have two marriages that quote unquote failed. I look at it because my mindset is different. I have two marriages that have successfully completed. Every relationship that I have that completes, I write down ways that that relationship blessed me, because I don't have any residue. Because when it was time for me to be positioned for Paul, there was no residue of friendships. There was no residue of my mom didn't do this, my daddy didn't do that. I want you to make a list of the relationships that hurt you the most. And then I want you to write how they blessed you. What blessings did you get? That's how we empty out that residue. I went from wishing and praying to healing and walking other women through this process. My biggest flex though, y'all, is my kids get to watch this. When I introduced Paul to my children, they were blown away. They were like, wow. And they got a daddy, and their daddy is very active in their life. All three of my children share the same father, and he's very active in their life. They loved Paul from jump. When me and Paul went on our first date, I was still struggling with healing. One of the things I told you guys yesterday is that we are supposed to build lines, not walls. I had walls. I had so much residue from past church hurt. I had so much residue from past relationship hurts. I had all this residue. So our first date was terrible. I would be lying to you guys if I said it was perfect. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I was judgmental. I had no compassion. I had no trust. He had no trust. We ended the date and I got on the phone and I talked to somebody else that I was talking to. This is my truth. But because I knew that God was positioning me, because when you are being positioned, sometimes there's nothing that you can even do about it except for get in position. I tossed and turned all night. I was upset. I was like, goodness, why did I do this? Tamika, why did you do this again? I had to release everything. I had to sit down and I had to journal. I had to forgive myself. I had to do all the work, all the things that I'm teaching folks to do. I had to do those things. 2 weeks went by. We went on another date. It was literally magical, you guys. Literally magical. Maybe not literally, but it felt magical. It was beautiful. He had studied me. Because a man that truly loves you, they're also, and when they're ready, they're also very intentional. You don't have to talk in circles. You know how we do that as women? You don't have to talk in circles. You're able to articulate yourself and be upfront because they're ready. They are ready. They're also intentional. They've also paid attention to you. They know that you've done your homework and you've done your work. They know that there's no residue. They know that they can trust you. From our second date on, it was like we were glue. Now, I know that everybody on here is not ready, maybe to be married. You're not ready to be positioned, but you're on here because something caught your eye. You're on here because you realized there's something more that I can be doing or should be doing. For those of you that are married, you're wondering, how do I get my marriage back to what it was? How do I get my marriage to be restored to where we felt those butterflies? I still, when my husband texts me, I'll be like trying to position the camera right. And is he gonna get these good angles? I still get butterflies because I feel like we're finding each other daily. It does not have to get stale. There are ebbs and flows, I'm not gonna lie. But because I'm intentional about taking care of me, I'm intentional about my self-care, my soul care, which I don't have time to get into that today, but my soul care, because he's intentional about his soul care, because we're intentional about our boundaries, and because we don't allow the world to shape our boundaries, but we have our boundaries that work for us, it's possible. I want to leave you guys with really just the hope of what's possible. Take it from me, a little girl from Pomona, California, whose parents were 15 and 16 years old when they had me, who grew up in the crack epidemic. And the most memories that I have of my mom is her being arrested, more than I have of her playing with me, going to parks. But the memories that I have with her, of her with her handcuffs, her being arrested. This little girl that was put back in the second grade because I couldn't read or write, didn't even know how to write my name. This little girl that had a major stroke at 32 years old because I was carrying the weight of all my dysfunction. But I literally took steps to change my life around. Faith without works is dead. If you literally want to change your life, it's up to you. God honors movement. You've already made the first step by coming onto this masterclass, sitting through it. I see you, Ruth. I see you taking notes. I see you, Jonisha. Jonisha has been rocking with me since December of last year. Healing is a contact sport. You have to actively engage in your healing. Everything that you desire in life desires you. Everything that it's so I see you, sis. It's so been rocking with me, man, since last year. Everything, write that down. Everything that I desire desires me. An underlying desire. Because that's the thing. You have to get clear on what you desire. You have to get clear. Before we got on here, I have a membership class that I host. We meet the first Tuesday of every month where I teach live. And then the second Tuesday of every month, I have an expert that comes on and teaches. I wanted to cancel because I'm like, oh, shoot, I have the webinar and I forgot about the webinar. But one of my core values and one thing that I desire in life is for people to walk in integrity, for me to walk in integrity, and for people to walk in integrity. That is a core value. So because that's my core value, I did the call. We did the call. We walked through it. I welcomed my members. We did our thing. What are your core values? Not what your mother said you should do, not what your father said you should do. And it's okay to take some of those things and add them to your core values, but not what society, not even what the church. What are your core values? Because when you are able to understand and respect and implement your core values. I was having a conversation with someone. I love you, Itzel. I love you so much, sis. I was having a conversation with someone earlier, and I was saying, we collect all this information. We come on these webinars, we go on Facebook Lives, we go on Instagram Lives, and we collect all this information, but then we don't apply it. We gotta stop doing that, ladies. I pray that this last 2 days has been phenomenal. I pray that you learned something. I pray that you got something out of it. The faith actions is the first thing I want you guys to do is book a clarity call. And this is not for me to sell you guys anything. I want you to book your clarity call. Tasha's going to be sending you guys all the invites personally. I want you to book a clarity call so you can tell me like what you got out of this. I want you to tell me how has this served you? And I want you to tell me if you need me to serve you in any other capacity and how can we do that? I was very intentional about, I ain't selling nothing on these calls. I want to serve. I posted a reel earlier today and I talked about the waiting room experience. And Instagram only gives you 60 seconds, so I couldn't get into it. But when my son was born at 26 weeks and he weighed 1 pound, 9 ounces, the hardest part about that is when I had to wait in those waiting rooms, when he was walking through surgery, when he stopped breathing and they pushed me in the waiting room, I knew the state that he was in. And I knew what the possible outcomes were. But those waiting room experiences, many of you are in waiting rooms of your life. And you feel like, I know what I've gone through. Ruth, I know the abuse that I suffered. I know all of that stuff. And I know what I want. But this part, who's going to sit with me in this waiting room? Who's going to be with me in this waiting room period of my life? I'm here to tell you, I understand those waiting room moments. And you are not alone. You are not alone. There are some faith action steps that you can do to help you in those waiting room periods. Those of you that are waiting for the new job, you're waiting for the promotion, you're waiting for the friends, whatever you're waiting for your business to pop off, Shakara, whatever those waiting room experiences are, know that you're not alone. I want you all to book your clarity call, start your journal and your prayers to your future husband. Those of you that are not ready for that, start journaling to yourself. Dear future self, remember the first question that I asked you last night. Who do you want to be? Start journaling to that version of yourself. I am literally the woman that I needed. I am the woman that I needed, but I co-created this with God. Last faith action step before I let you go. We're going to open up for a few minutes for question and answers or questions. Turn on your light. Turn on your light. Turn on your light to friendship. Turn on your light to possibility. Turn on your light to position yourself and get ready for those prayers to be answered. I absolutely love, honor, and adore you guys. Is there any questions before I end this portion of us chatting with each other? Or any takeaways from tonight? Ruth, you're safe. You're safe. Go ahead and unmute your mic, sis. You're muted.
Okay, so I do have a question. How far out can the call be booked? And I ask only because I just started with a new therapist on last Friday, and I kind of feel like I don't know if I can do the work parallel. I do want a life coach, but I feel like I need that kind of work first. So how far out, or should I just wait to book one, or?
It's totally up to you, but I can tell you my clients that get the best results, they do the work parallel.
Okay.
So, but it's totally up to you. The next 3 days, my calendar is wide open. I left my calendar completely open for you all, but send me an email and let me know how you feel. I want this to be something that, you know, you feel like you're ready for.
Okay, I appreciate that.
No worries. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I just want to hear your takeaways. What are your takeaways from tonight? Janisha, I'm gonna pick on you. So this is a new side of me. You haven't seen me teach on this types of stuff before. What was the takeaways for you?
Mostly is being intentional.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm so proud of Janisha. She's my niece, y'all. She is my niece. I don't know how she my niece, but she my niece. I think I'm probably only a couple of years older than her, but I absolutely love her. And the moment I seen her, I was like, I had this kindred spirit towards her. And we've been working together for quite some time. And y'all, I'm a glow her up right now, or whatever the young folks say. Sis is a whole doctor. Okay. So look at her hiding. Sis is a whole like MD, not like, you know how church folks be getting honorary doctorates. No, sis did the work, went to school. She's a whole doctor. Those are the caliber of women that I attract and that I am blessed. And this is just a small caveat. When you position yourself and your light is on, you attract people like that. I can't wait. And this is for all of y'all. When those of you guys that came on late, I played Wifey, You're My Wifey, Play the Night Complete, whatever, you know, the song. I forget, Jagged Edge. And Veronica, you turned on your camera and made me lose my train of thought. No, you're okay. So my only request for how I pour it out to y'all, when y'all get ready to get married, I need a seat at the wedding, and I need a +1. I need a seat at the wedding and a +1, okay? Because me and Paul, we coming. If you decide to renew your vows, Tosh, well, listen, I already know I'm there. I already know. Itzel, what was one of your takeaways from tonight, sis? I absolutely love you. And then I'm going to let you guys go. Veronica, I want you to share one thing as well.
I was actually just about to volunteer. But one thing that really stood out to me during this call is the selfishness. Because before I was married, I was always thinking about others, was there for others. And then I got married, got my daughters, and everything kind of turned on. I wanted everything for me. So I'm like, I need a nap, I need a rest. Like I need to start getting healthy. And at some point I started forgetting about the beginning, me, thinking about others. And that's something that I really want to start practicing again, is finding that balance and remembering that others have needs too, and we have to acknowledge them.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my takeaway.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable. I appreciate that. Beto, what was your takeaway?
I jumped on Lena. I was like, no. I know it's good. Just to let you know, Ruth, too, I know you said something about a therapist already, too. Good, do your thing. But Tamika is a whole another level. It's just a whole nother level. I'm a therapist myself, too. It's a whole different level of what you're going to get. Because it's not like she said before, it's not just her that's in the room. And it's definitely been a big difference. I mean, I'm going to get emotional. I've always been one where I've always like stopped myself of expressing the emotion or being the vulnerable person. And I'd be like, ooh, do I really have to share? Let me listen to the other people's feelings instead of actually sharing mine. And even just in these, we're on week 4 now. There's been so much like eye-opening stuff that I didn't even see. And it's just been the big one. So the big takeaway that I even just saw, even was the breakdown of the 10 items. I was like, oh, that's exactly why that conversation still needs to happen.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. But I can't say that I'm not doing my part or doing my work. And I think that's the biggest thing with it. And yeah, I mean, and I know, yeah, I can go on and on.
But yeah, we have a session this Monday, right?
Seriously.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, ladies, I am going to, let me just check this chat. I am going to stop sharing for a moment. A seat. Listen, Shalise said, take your seat. Okay. I thank you all. I thank you so very much for allowing me to pour into you. I thank you for being the valuable person that you are. And for those of you that jumped on late, I want to share this quote that I opened us with, and I want you to really resonate on this and sit with this. And it is from the book Atomic Habits. And it says, we do not rise to the level of our goals. We fail to the level of our systems. So many of us are not failing because of who we are. We're failing because of our surroundings and the systems and the things that we're not intentional about, the journaling, the mirror work, the unpacking, all of those things that I teach as you're working with me, we negate those things and we don't put those things as practices and systems into our everyday lives. So it's not because we're not rising to our goals, it's because we're failing because we don't have the right systems and supports in place. Absolutely love you guys. Absolutely am grateful for you all. Go enjoy. Hey, listen, it's Tuesday with Tamika. It is Tuesday with Tamika. Okay. Make sure you guys go listen to the podcast. It was extremely good today. I had a phenomenal guest. We are walking into, for the whole month of July, we're talking about turning our trials into treasures. You can listen on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, go directly to my website, tuesdaywithtamika.com. Listen to that podcast. I know you'll get takeaways. Love you, love you, love you to life. Hope to see you guys all on your clarity calls. My phone has already been blowing up. So I see y'all that booked your clarity calls. I appreciate you guys. And until we meet again, God bless you and have a great night. Bye-bye.